no gold is not enough.
Welcome guys, welcome to this video. So initially when we set up our project, we added the Vuex in our application. So if you go to the Vuex website here, npm install Vuex, we ran this command. Now it's the time that we work with Vuex, because our application, and we reached to the front page, navigation is there, but we don't have the coaches currently showing up. So to work with that, we need to use Vuex to deal with the database, and Firebase we are going to use as database in this series. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to go into our application main.js file, and we already ran the command for Vuex, which is this one, so we don't need to run it. Now we can simply call Vuex here. So for calling Vuex, we are going to call it like this. So we'd say here import, and we're going to call this store, and from, and we want to call it from inside a source directory. So here currently I don't have that file, so what I'm going to do, inside the source directory I'm going to create a folder. So I'm going to say it's store. All right, and the store directory is going to handle everything. Inside the store directory we're going to have index.js file, so we need to create that file here, index.js. Now this is going to be the configuration file for Vuex, and we are going to call this file here. So first let's put some configuration here. So first thing first, I'm going to say import view from view. All right, second thing we want is Vuex, as we're setting it for that. So Vuex, and we're going to say Vuex from Vuex, and this should be inside quotes like this. Now we have the command, we already ran the command, that's why it's going to get the access to Vuex here. Now here what I want to do, I want to say that view application dot use the Vuex. All right, so we are just telling it to use it. Now this is done, we can save this, and here I'm going to say slash and store and slash we have index.js. This is how you call it. Now as we are calling it in the main, we need to pass it into our application so that we bind it to our application. Now our application will use it, so we have the Vuex working installed. Now you can see that we don't have any error if I refresh the page even, so all is set for now. Now when we deal with Vuex, we are going to create modules. Now in Vuex we can create modules in the store directory. So here I'm going to create a directory inside it, so I'm going to get a folder. So we are going to call it modules, and spelling should be correct. And inside the modules we are going to create directories according to what we want. So we want in our application to deal with coaches and messages, so for now, so it's going to be coaches and not coachers, it's coaches, and also messages, so it's going to be again messages. All right, so inside these directories we are going to create each module for this particular, and what module does is it is going to deal with the database. So currently we are dealing with the coaches. So inside coaches, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a file, and it is going to be called, you can give it any name, it's totally your preference. So I'm going to call it index.js. all right, so this is inside this coaches. Okay, so it's here. Okay, so don't get confused between index.js right now. Outside here because it's here in the store. This is the main file. Now inside modules, coaches, then we have index.js, or you can call it coaches.js, up to you. I'm just calling it index.js for now. Now we created this index.js, so what we need to do, we need to create few objects here. So what do I say here? I say constant, and constant going to be state is equal to an object, which is going to be empty for now. So when we deal with Vuex, we deal with constants, getters, actions, and mutations. I'll show you how these things work. For now, I'm just going to pass another one, constant. This one is going to be getters. All right. And then the third one is constant actions equals empty object, then constant mutations. All right, just like that. There should be equal spacing to make it look better. Now, as we created these constant, we need to export these. So we say export default, and spellings are wrong. Export default, and we need to set the export an object where we're going to call state, and we're going to call getters, actions, and last mutations. All right, so yeah, all set. Now we can save this. So we just created first module for our coaches, and now we need to call this inside this index. So the thing is, when you call inside this index, then it is going to bind with this. So what do? We simply say here import, and you can give it a name here. So I say coaches module. All right, and I say from, then we need to select the directory. So it's in modules, then we have coaches, and then we have index.js. All right, so we have it this way. Now this coaches module, we need to bind it. So what we do, I'm going to say here constant store equals new vuex dot store. So when you create your modules, you're going to bind them like this. You're just going to pass modules, and whatever modules you have, you're going to pass here. So I'm going to say coaches and the coaches module. So we called it, we imported it here, and we are passing it here. Now this is the index file that we called here, and from there we are getting the store. Now if I go back here, if you notice, we're getting an error here. The thing is, we are not exporting this store, but we are importing it here, so we need to export it. So here I say export default store, and save this. So if I go to the browser, we are not getting any error. That means everything's working fine. So we just created a module for our Vuex. Now let's show the coaches. So for displaying the data, displaying the coaches on the front page, we deal with this module. So we have state on the top. What I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the state from here, and rest getters, actions, and mutations will stay there. So inside state here, what I'm going to say, I'm going to define it a bit differently. It's going to be state, and it is going to be an object, and we're going to return an object inside. So it's a return an object, and inside it we say coaches, and that is going to be an array. So I'm going to copy and paste an array here. I'm just going to copy and paste like this, so you can see this. It's nothing basically, but I have an array of coaches. So I have a given ID, first name, last name, age, then I have a skills, which is an array. So, and then the about, and then the rate. So these three coaches I am adding here, and this is getting a return. Okay, so this is we are doing inside state. So if syntax wise, if you see, we have state, then we are have getters, action, mutations, and we are exporting these here. So currently we just call this state here. So to access this inside our page here, we are going to call getters. So what we do inside getter is we simply create a getter, coaches, and then we are getting access to state, and then we are saying that it is state dot coaches. All right, so this is the getter, and if you get this getter, you're going to get the access to this data, which is this data here, and we have this data showing up. So we need to call this getter to access this data. So I go to the file, so we need to go to front page here. We need to start our script tag. Now here, if I want to access this, what I can do, I can use the computed property, and that will get me the data. So computed, and here inside I say display coaches list. All right, just like that, and inside it we say this dot, I want to access the getter, so I say $store, and then dot, we are going to get getters, and we are going to define which getter we are getting. So we are going to say coaches slash getter name. So it's going to be getter name, which is our getter name is display coaches. So I go here and put in there. Now to get the data like this, we need to tell the index.js file that we want to use namespacing, because it's not going to get the data otherwise. So in here in store, in coaches, where we have the state and we have getters actions, on the top of state here we need to say name spaced. All right, and we want to set it to true. Now when you set this to true here, so remember that you created a coaches module, and there you're exporting these all action states and mutation, and there you're defining that okay, namespace is true. So when you call a namespace true, and then you call it here, you're calling coach module, then you passed that module in modules. So the name you provided here, this name, now this name is going to be the name that you can use to call this particular module. So if I go to the front page, I'm calling that coaches here. Okay, so this coaches is inside store index, where we are calling all modules, and because we used the namespace enabled in that particular module file, so we can use this name to call it. So here, that's what we are doing. Okay, so now let's see if we are getting the data or not. So here I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to put it here. And we get, okay, I made a mistake here. So if I go back here, when you create computed, it should be correctly spelled. And second thing, when you create a computed function, you simply return. So it's return here. Now if we go and refresh, okay, we need to refresh, we don't see that error, and we see the data. Now we can loop through this data to display it a bit better. So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a component for this one. So what we do, because the view components are basically to use, you can use that component in many places, and for each small piece you should have your own component. So here what we're going to do, we're going to create another component. So I'm going to go here in files, we have components, and inside components we want to create components for coaches. So here I'm going to create a directory and it's going to be coaches. So any component we create inside this directory for we can create. So here, so it's not a page, it is just for a small portion. It's going to be looping through this data. So we will be putting inside component coaches. If it is a separate page, then we will put inside pages coaches, pages, and then coaches. So here I create a new file. I call it coach item dot view. All right, so here I say template and then the div. Now I'm going to use again Bootstrap in this case to make it a bit better so that we won't have to spend much time on the designing. So it's simply going to say here class, and it's going to be col md4. So this is going to make it 4. It's going to be in a row, and they're going to be three boxes because Bootstrap one row consists of 12, and we are giving 4 here to each. And inside it I want to create a div with the class of card, and also margin bottom 3. Now this is how you give margin bottom to in Bootstrap. So don't worry if you don't know Bootstrap. If you know, that's great. If you don't know, it's not something that you need to worry about. So here, header. Now here we need to put some data, and also I want to create div card body. So the data we are getting here, if you noticed, we are getting ID, first name, last name, age, skills. So now we're gonna show that data. So what I say here, I say display name. All right, here in body I'm going to create a list group. So it's going to be ul, and with the class of list group, and inside it I want li with the class of list group item. It's going to make it looking a bit better. So here we are gonna copy this. I'm going to put here details. All right, and then I want to paste another div. Here I say age. Now here I'm saying coach age. In a bit I'm going to show you how to create these. I'm just putting it right now so you can see now. So here another. So we say specializes in. And here we are going to put first a break, and then I'm going to say span, and I want to give it a class of badge. So we have the skills showing up here. So badge info, and I want margin to be 2. All right, and here we are going to loop through the skills. For now I'm going to leave it like this. Here I'm going to put list group item, and there we want to show the charges. So it's going to be charges, and that's going to be coaching fee. Last, not the least, we need to put about. And here about coach. So that's it. At last we want to add a button. We do that, but let's show this data, because currently if you go to browser we should be we have nothing so far, so we need to include this coach item. So we need to go here and we need to call it inside it. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply say here, first import coach item from, now we are going to go one folder out, we get components, because it's a component, and coaches, and then coach item dot view. All right, so we can call this, so we can say here coach item. Now it's going to be coach item. So we have the coaches, it's an array, and we don't have only single coach, we have multiple coaches here. So we can loop through this data. So for looping through this data, what we need to do, we need to use v-for. So what I do here, I simply say v-for, and in v-for we are going to pass this display coach list. So here you can say here coach in display coach list. Now they're going to be key as well. So each coach has ID, so we can say coach.id. All right, so this is what we need. Now we need to pass the coach data so that we can use it. So I'm going to, because if we go to coach item, we're going to show the coach data here, so we need to pass it like that. So I simply say here coach data, it's going to be prop, and here coach. All right, so currently we are getting an error, so let's fix that. So what we need to do, because we included this and we defined here few properties, and we haven't showed what exactly those properties are, so it is confused, like what exactly is this display coach name. So we need to mention it, what exactly it is. So what happens is we are passing a prop, which is coach. So we can call that prop here. So we can say here script prop. All right, and we want to say coach data. So this is how you get the data. So we said here, okay, coach data, and pass coach. So each time loop runs, each coach goes inside it as coach data. Now we are going to get that coach data as props. So here I'm going to use the computed properties again to modify the data. So how we modify? So what we do, we get display coach name, and here I'm going to say, all right, return the name of the user. So we say this dot coach data. All right, so we get the coach data. Now if you can see here, we have the first name and last name. Let me show you in the page. So we have first name and last name. I want to join these names before showing up. So what I can do here, I can coach data dot first, and then we need to join it last name. All right, so it is going to show the name to the user. The second property we are showing is coach age, so let's create that here. That we are going to return this dot coach data. So this is going to refer to this coach data prop, the property we are getting, and inside it we have the data that we are getting from this loop, and that is the data that we are showing, and that data that we have here. All right, so that's how it works. So here I'm just going to say age, so we're just going to return age. Next we have the specializes, and now here we need to loop through. It's not going to be that way. So what we can do, I create another property and I call it coach skills. This dot coach data dot skills. All right, so now this is going to return an array, and this array we are going to loop through. So let's do that. So here, what I'm gonna say, we have it here. So it's the class, and then we say v4, and we want to say, let's call it area in code skills. Now we want a key, and I give it index. Now when you want to give index, you need to get the index, so you can pass it like this, index, because we don't have any ID to each of the code skill, so we need to pass index like this. Now as we have this, we can print the name of the skill. So here we can say area. All right, so we're going to print that. Now we need to deal with coach fee, so let's do that. Coach data dot rate. If you remember, we have rate in here as set, so we are calling this. Now what left? What is remaining? Coach fee, we also want an ID because we have the ID as well, so we can use this ID. So let's get that. So I say here, let's put the about coach and coaching fee. Yeah, the names are correct. Return this dot coach data dot about. All right, now the last one, coach ID, and here I want to say return this dot coach data dot ID. Save this, and all should be good. Let's see about status now. We have coach item is defined but never used. Okay, coach item, and we go to front page. All right, we haven't called it, so we need to say here components, and inside component we need to define it that we want to use this component, so it's going to use it. Now we're using it here. Now I can remove this h1, and if I go here now, you can see we are seeing the stuff going. To some extent it's totally fine, but some designing issues are there. Okay, we need to create a div here as well, so it's a div with the class of row, so that everything comes in line order. So cut this and put it inside it. All right, so we have the class of row, and you can even put this here like if we have the data, then show this data. So we simply pass this if we have this, then loop through. All right, so now you can see that we have it this way. Now the only thing I'm concerned about is that why we are not getting the styles completely. All right, I just created the div with the class of card, but this card body is outside, so that's an issue. We need to remove that. We need to cut this from here, and it should be here. So it's like card header, then card body, and UL inside it should be like this. And there is a spelling mistake. You can see that we are saying group misspelled, so we need to correct that too. All right, because it's a bootstrap class, its name should be matching, otherwise it's not gonna work. You can see that it's looking a lot better now. So we have the coaches showing up here. Now in the next video we are going to see each coach single. We can go and see the details, and hope you like this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.
And our goal is not in her.